Good morning.
Hi, Alan. All right.
Good morning. How are you, Rabbi?
Okay. But this,
The thing is,
But
I
mean, either the aircraft cylinder is adequate because there's a hold underneath, so you have, I don't know, look, people are crazy. Did you say the Toida this morning?
did I say the Mizmor?
No, I'm sorry, I mean, the Tamid, the paragraph of the Tamid. Because today's Gemara, if you don't say it, the world will come to an end. No, Mashiach doesn't come. The Vogel comes.
Okay, I'm going to start the learning sponsors while everybody gets settled, and then we will continue. All right. Year of learning, Sue and Arnie Garlick in memory of Malcolm Proman and Philip Mann. And Yisrael David ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch and Beryl ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch. Yosef Meir ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Henya Rivka Pro Rosner bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch. In memory of family murdered in the Holocaust, Harav Tzvi Hirsch ben Shlomo Yaakov, Sarah bat Ephraim, Yisrael David ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Ephraim ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Adia bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Miriam bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Pesel bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Shalom ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Shlomo Yaakov ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Shmuel ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch. Sharon and Fred Liska, their family and many friends, in memory of her dear mom, Harriet Friedman, Edelbas Yaakov. Leslie and Gail Kaplan, in memory of their parents, Harry and Marjorie Sedell, and Irving and Pearl Kaplan. Friends of Avi Gitler, Avram Meir ben Shimon, and Martha Gitler Sharna bat Yeshaya. Children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren of Toby Paris, and we welcome Sid back today. I think he'll be here. Saratova bat Yisrael Dov in her memory. Friends of Joe Wolf, Yosef ben Chaim, Charlie Gelfenstein, and Sam Levine, in memory of Ramona Levine, Rachel Mata bat Asher. Friends of Nina Moynester, Nechama Azna bat Yitzchak Aharon. Have a month of learning by Marcia Federbush in memory of her father, Menachem Mendel ben Shlomo, by Ruvain and Susan Podolsky in memory of his mother, Fredel Bashraga Fibro, by Phyllis and Chaim Reese in memory of her father, Pinchas ben Avraham, by Rebecca Lewis and Susan Witonsky in memory of their aunt and sister, Miriam Bad Yosef Dvora. We have a week of learning by Marty and Marla Teichman in memory of his father, Yom Tov Lipa ben Avraham. Today is the 9th, right? We have a day of learning by Siggy and Lala Bessler in memory of their granddaughter, Panina Margalit Badov, by Eunice Pivovich in memory of her father, Echazan Avram Chaim ben Tzvi Hirsch, and by Milton and Pearl Frank in memory of his father, Yaakov ben Moshe. And Shemas Heaven Aliyah, Kranker Afia, Valti Yeshua Shem Atliah, and the Chol B'nai Yisrael, a good gebenched Yah.
Kenny, what are you? 2 or 1?
Put me down for 2. Okay.
Listen, since I pay for you, should be rather relatives.
I'm back to 1.
Okay. Wise guy.
Told me last night.
What? Marty Engel. Marty Engel.
Angle. 1 or 2?
1.
Angle.
Okay. All right. Okay, so yesterday in the Gemara, as we went to the top of Kaf Vav, Amud Bey Aleph, okay, they were trying to compare a Kohen Mevarech to other situations. What? Well, that's what I was going to say. They were comparing it to others, right? Right. So right to other things. Okay. So one of the issues that came up at the Gemara, all right, Amar Rabbi Yitzchak Ke'amar Kra l'sharto levarech b'shmo Ma misharet mutar b'chartzan af kohen mevorech mutar b'chartzan. Eating parts of grapes. Okay, but then the Gemara on Kaf Vav said, Imam misharet ba'al mum lo, that if he was a kohen that's supposed to do some sort of divine service, and he has a mum can't, right? So the same thing, af kohen mevorech ba'al mum lo. Okay, so also no. But the Gemara challenges, ha'it kish nazir. But kohen is also, right, associated with a nazir. Umachazye, all right, machazit the makshe, the mikash lakula. What was the reason that you made the association for a leniency? Akish lachumra. Okay, I'll make it to a stringency. The Gemara then said, Ismachta ninhu midrabanan ulakula. Okay, and that's where we left off. Okay, that there was really the reason that was, since it was only, so to speak, an ismachta.
No, it's Emos and Samantha has
It's
really
not
so.
that I'll make it, it's that the general rule is.
Right,
that
right.
It's always lakum.
Yeah, asmachta minhu and midrabanan ulakula. Okay, and so therefore, in this case, it's lakula. Right, so that's where we're picking up 4 lines down on Kaf, right? Kaf Zion, Amud Aleph, with a new piece from our Mishnah. Okay? So, Elohein Ma'amadot, Lafisha Ne'amar, Savet B'nai Yisrael. Okay, citing the Mishnah, right? So what happens? Mai Ka'amar, what is he saying? Achi Ka'amar, this is what it means to tell us. Eluhein Ma'amadot. These are these Ma'amadot. Okay. By the way, there are, just a quick aside, there are some individuals who believe that the Ma'amadot, because they were done in the local communities, was the actual, perhaps the origin of having a Beit Knesset in a local community. Okay, others want to disagree and give a different explanation, which we might touch on a little later. Okay, but the point is, umatam tiknu ma'amadot. So we're going to get into more detail what these assemblies were. Okay, and remember, we're saying that you're having 2 things going on at once. I'm going to jump back in the Gemara in a second. In Yerushalayim, you have Kohen Levim and Yisraelim there, okay? And they're doing something, okay? In the local community from which that mishmar was sent, you have another group doing, okay, something as well, okay?
Yeah, like a private student that went to Yerushalayim,
Right.
half state.
Okay, so what happened? Lafishin Amart, Savet B'nai Yisrael, Ve'amarta Alehem. Commanding B'nai Yisrael, and you should say to them the following: Et korbani lachmi le'ishai, v'he'ach korbano shel adam korev. And how should the person's offering be presented? Let's say, v'hu ono omed al gabav, and he's not there alongside it. He's not there, in a sense, participating. Okay. It kinu nevi'im harishonim, the early prophets made a takana, esrim ba'arba'a mishmarot, okay, that there were going to be these 24 stations. Al kol mishmar u'mishmar, hayam ma'amad b'Yerushalayim shel kohanim, shel levi'im, v'shel Yisraelim. Okay, so each station then had when they would go up to Jerusalem, it would include Kohanim, Levim, and Yisraelim, and this was going to be this Ma'amad, this assembly. Higi Zman Mishmar La'alot, came the time, says this Braita, for a particular station to go to Jerusalem to do their service. They were twice a year they would be going, okay? Right? Kohanim v'Leviim olim Yerushalayim, according to the Braita. The Kohanim and Levim would go to Jerusalem. Tanu Rabbanan. So the Braita now, another Braita, right? Esrim ba'arba mishmarot be'eretz Yisrael. There were these 24 stations in Israel. Ushtei mesrei b'Yericho. And 12 would be in Yericho. Now that doesn't give us, that's a problem. Why? Because that's 24 and 12. That gives us a different number, right? It gives us 36. But we just were told in the Mishnah that it was 24. Okay, so what happens? Shtei mesrei b'Yericho. You're saying that there were 12 in Jericho. Nefeshin lahu tuva. That's far too many. Ela shtei mesrei mehen b'Yericho. Okay, but there were 12 there in Yericho. Higiyas man hamishmar la'alot. And when it was the time for a particular station to go to Jerusalem, Chatzi hamishmar haya oleh me'eretz Yisrael Yerushalayim. Half that station would go up to Jerusalem, v'chatzi hamishmar haya oleh me'Yericho, and half a station from Jericho. Okay, right. Okay, they were the accommodators, right? The caterers, right? Kadesh yisapku mayim umazon la'acheim shebiyerushalayim. They brought the food, okay, from Jericho. Okay, right. So, right. So what happened? Right, caterers, right? Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel. So Rav Yehuda in the name of Shmuel says, Kohanim v'Leviim v'Yisraelim ma'akvin et hakorban. Okay, that according to him, this Masorah, right, you needed not just Kohanim and Leviim going to Jerusalem, but you also needed Yisraelim going there as part of a ma'amad. Okay, because one group were at the Mizbeach, the Kohanim and Leviim, and the other, the Yisraelim, were not directly at the Mizbeach.
They were there
They were in Yerushalayim, right? But they were not there. Okay, right. But matnita Tana, and we have another text that teaches as follows: Rabbi Shimon ben Eleazar, he says, Kohanim v'Leviim uklei shir ma'akvin et hakorban. That you need to have the Kohanim and the Leviim with their musical instruments. Okay, were there at the offering. But my kimiflage, what are they arguing about? Mar savar ikar shira b'peh. One master was of the opinion that the essence of, let's call it the liturgical music, liturgical activity on the part of the Leviim, okay, was done vocally by a choir. Okay, Umar Savar Ikar Shira Bakli, and the other master was of the opinion that the essence of the Levitical accompaniment was done by musical instruments. Okay, Psalm 150, that's the example of what instruments were used. Okay, so what happens? Amar Rav Chama Bar Guria. What did he say? Amar Rav, in the name of Rav. Before we had a Braita that said that it was the, right, Nevi'im Rishonim that made this mishmar. Now he's suggesting something.
Moshe is the earliest of all.
Oh, it's true. But still, Moshe Tikein Lehem Yisrael, Shmona Mishmarot. Moshe established 8 stations, Arba Me'elazar, Arba Me'itamar, right? 2 from each of the Kohanim, surviving sons of Aharon to be able to carry out the Avodah. Ba Shmuel, V'hamidan al Sheish Esrei. Shmuel came along and he doubled it, raised it up to 16. Ba David, V'hamidan al Esrim V'arba. Came David and he increased the number to 24. Shnei, okay, and here's the pasuk from Divrei Hayamim, from the book of Chronicles. B'shnat ha'arba'im lemalchut David, okay, in the 40th year of David. Nidrashu, they sought out, I'm going to use that phrase, B'yimtzeh behem giburei hachayil, B'ezer Gilad. Okay, and what happened? And that David did other things at that time, in which it cites he established these mishmarot. May tive, but we'll challenge this with another braita. Moshe tikein lehem liyisrael shmona mishmarot, that Moshe made 8 mishmarot. Arba me Elazar va'arba me Itamar, 4 from Elazar, 4 from Itamar. Ba David u'Shmuel, so here they did it together. Ve'amidan al esrim va'arba, and together the result was 24. Shneamar, as it says there, and again back in Dvarim, in the Chronicles, Hema or Hema Yisa David u'Shmuel haroeh be'amunata. Hachikama, and this is what it means to explain to us. Misodo shel David u'Shmuel haramati. Okay, and I'm going to translate the word misodo here. Koren suggests the word ordination. I'm not sure if that's the best translation. I'm guessing that Art Scroll probably has a slightly different. Okay, right? Right, from the establishment or from the foundation made by. Okay,
Art Scroll
David.
says legislation.
Yeah, what?
Art Scroll says legislation.
Legislation. I'm not happy with that either. So that's
No.
okay. All right. Ha'amidum al esrim ba'arba. Okay, that they established 24. Tanya Ida. And we have another Braita that teaches Moshe tikein lehem liyisrael sheish esrei mashmarot, that Moshe established for the Jewish people 16 stations. Shmona me Elazar, Shmona me Itamar. 8 from Elazar, 8 from Itamar. Ukasher rabu b'nei Elazar al b'nei Itamar. And when the number of progeny of Elazar increased over that of Itamar, Chalkum v'ha'amidum al esrim ba'arba. They divided them up into a new pattern of 24. As it says, Vayimse'eu b'nei Elazar, Rabim l'roshei hagvarim min b'nei Itamar, Vayichalkum l'b'nei Elazar, Roshim l'beit avot shisha asar, l'bnei Itamar l'beit avotam shmona. Okay? So the long pasuk says that they did it differently, 16 for one, 8 for the other. Va'omer, and it says here, Beit Av Echad, right? That one, say, patrilineal family. Achuz le'elazar, that was a portion of Elazar. Achuz le'itamar, and a portion for a portion for those of Itamar.
Meaning it stayed the same.
Okay, in other words, the
Portion was
bass,
still the portion.
it was still an appropriate arrangement. Okay? Va'omer, what about it says, and it says, V'chitema ki hechi de nafishe b'nei Elazar, hachinami de nafishe b'nei Itamar, shmona me'ikara. Okay, since you said that there was an abundance of the children of b'nei Elazar, okay, what about the fact, here we seems to say that there was more of b'nei Itamar, okay, than the 8 original. Arba havi, that there were 4. Tashma, listen to the following Braita. Beit Av Echad Achuz LaElazar. One patrilineal family was a portion, okay, proportionate to Elazar. Va'achuz achuz le'itamar, and proportionate to the proportion to Itamar. To Yuvta de Rav Chama Bar Guria, and this seems a proof text against what Rav Chama Bar Guria was saying was the numbers, okay? Because he had said 4 and 4, I think. All right, Amar lach Rav Chama Bar Guria. What would he say? Tana'ahi. This was a machloket Tanaim. Va'ana da'amreki hai Tana da'amar shmona. And I was saying, according to the particular Tana that said there was initially 8 of one son of Aaron, 8 from another son of Aaron. That was the case. Okay. New Braita, Tanu Rabbanan says this Braita. Arba'a mishmarot alumin hagolah. That 4 stations came from the Golah. What is it saying? From Bavel in the time of Ezra. Okay. Ve'elu hein, and these were the following: Yadaya, Charim, Pashchor ve'emar. Okay. Now what happened? Hamdu nevi'im shebenehem. Okay, the prophets among them, Chagai, Zechariah, and Malachi, v'chalkum, and they divided them. As we go to the next Amud, v'hamidum al esrim va'arba, and they established them as 24. Now what happened? Balalum, they mixed them up, but not num bekalfe. Okay, exactly. And they put their names, their number, into an urn. In other words, establishing a lottery. Ba Yedaya, v'natal chelko, v'chelek chaverav. Yedaya came, he took his portion and that of other colleagues. Shesh, they got 6. Bacharim, v'natal chelko, v'chelek chaverav. Shesh. Charim came, took his portion, and for other colleagues, also got 6. V'chein pashuzchor, v'chein imah, and so the others. So 4 times 6 is 24. Okay. Now what happens? Let's go on. Okay. V'chein imah. Right. Okay. Now v'chein hitnu nevi'im shebenehem, and likewise, I'm going to say, a condition was made. Okay. By these early, all right, the prophets among them, namely, Sha'afilu Yehoyadiv, Rosh Mishmeret, okay, that even were to be Yehoyadiv, who was the head of all of the stations.
The number 1 mishmar,
Right.
before
They went into exile in Bavel. Okay, were he and his mishpacha to come up, lo yidche yeda'aya mimkomo. He would not knock off, so to speak, Yedaya from having the first primary place. Ela Yedaya, right? Ela Yedaya ikar, v'hoya yadiv tafelo. But Yedaya would still be primarily the first, and Yehoyadiv then would be below him. Okay, all right. New piece from our Mishnah. V'Yisrael, okay, right? Sheba'oto mishmar. Okay, so now we get back. Remember, we saw that they said, some said that it was only the Kohanim and Levi'im that went to Jerusalem. Others say no, it was all 3. Okay, but let's assume it's all 3 for the moment. What did those Israelites do? Right? Sheba'oto mishmar mitkansim ba'arehem. Okay, part of them would gather in their cities, v'korin b'maaseh Breshit, and they would read Maaseh Breshit. Manahani Mili, what's the basis for this? Okay, from the Torah, Amar Rabbi Yaakov Bar Acha Amar Rav Asi, Ilmale ma'amadot lo nitkaimu shamayim ba'aretz. Were it not for these assemblies, okay, heaven and earth would not stand. Why? Shnei Amar, because it says there in Breshit, Vayomer Hashem Elokim b'meh eda ki irashena. How is it possible that I will know that I will inherit? Amar Avraham, okay, so that was the dialogue, right, prior to the beginning of Brit Bein Habatarim. Okay, so we continue. Amar Avraham, Ribono Shel Olam, Master of the world. Shema Yisrael chotin lefanecha. Shema Yisrael chotin lefanecha. Perhaps the Jewish people will sin before you. Ata oseh lehem kidor hamabul ukidor ha'aflaga. Perhaps then what you're going to do to them is like what you did to the generation of the flood or the generation of the dispersion. That's Bavel. Okay. Amar le lav. No. Amar lefanav. Okay. Further discussion, further dialogue. Ribono shel olam. Hodi'eni b'meh irashena. How will I know then that I will have this progeny that you've promised to me? Okay. Right. Amar lo, he said them. kachela egla mishuleshet ve'ez mishuleshet v'gomer. Okay, to take this offering, right, as described, right?
The brisbane himself.
Right, exactly. Amar lefanav, said to them again, the dialogue continuing. Ribono shel olam, tenach bisman shebeit hamikdash kayam. That's okay, so long as the temple's in existence. But what happens? Bisman she'ein beit hamikdash kayam, ma tehei alehem. What's going to be then? Right? Amar le, kfar tikanti lehem seder korbanot. I've already arranged for them the order of the kabbanos, right?
I put it in the Torah.
Right? Bisman shekorin bahem lefanai, ma'ale ani alehem ki'ilu hikrivum lefanai. At the time when he, okay, either can be reads them or recites them, all right, before me, I will attribute it to them as if they have actually presented, right? Presented without the base of Mikdash, right? Va'ani mochel lahem al kol avonotehem, and I will grant mechila, okay, to them for all of their sins.
It's talking about the korbanos that we say every day.
Exactly, exactly.
That's why you have to come early and say korbanos.
Either that or you say it at home, right? Uwe? What?
I say most people do not say those korbanos.
Yeah, but enough do that the world stays in existence.
So that means that
Ruben
we,
and I are here.
or it means that we have to continue saying it, Seth, right? Okay. All right, okay. Tana Rabbana. Okay, all right, let's go on. New Braita. Anshe Mishmar hayu mitpalalim al korban achehem sheyitkabel beratzon. Okay, the people of the Mishmar. Okay, right, would,
The ones that stayed home.
okay. I'm not sure. Okay, hayu mitpal, they would pray.
The ones in your shrine.
Okay, that the offering of their brethren would be willingly accepted. V'anshem ma'amad mitkansim lebeit hakneset, and the people of the ma'amad, okay, would enter the synagogue. V'yoshvin arba ta'aniyot, and they would observe 4 fast days. B'sheni, b'shabbat, on Monday, b'shlishi, b'revi'i, b'chamishi, and on Tuesday, Wednesday, and on Thursday. B'sheni, on the second day of the week, on Monday, al yurdei hayam, they would say those for that travel on the sea. B'shlishi, al holchei midbarot, those who travel in caravans in the wilderness, in the desert. B'revi'i, al achkara shaloti po al hatinokot, so that croup would not occur to the small children. I think croup was quite deadly. B'chamishi al ubarot umanikot, and that would be for pregnant and nursing women. Ubarot shelo yapilu, the pregnant women so they don't have a miscarriage. Manikot sheyaniku et b'neihem, the nursing mothers so that they can ensure that they can provide sustenance for their children. Ube'erev Shabbat lo hayu mitanin mipnei kavod haShabbat, and on Fridays they would not fast in order to show their respect for the Shabbos. Kal v'chomer b'Shabbat atzma, how much more so on Shabbat itself, that they would not fast. So what about Sunday? Be'echad b'Shabbat ma'itam alo, right? What about that? Amar Rabbi Yochanan, he says, mipnei hanotzrim, okay, because of the Christians, all right, namely that Sunday was their day, and they didn't, according to one explanation, they did not want it appear that the Jews were recognizing their day for any event, for any, right? Right. Rabbi Shmuel Bar Nachmani Amar, he gives a different explanation. Mipnei shehu shlishi liyitzira, because it was the 3rd day regarding the creation, the formation of the world. Reish Lakish Amar, he gives another different explanation. Mipnei neshama yetera, because of the neshama yetera. this extra soul that a person gains on Shabbos. In what way? The Amar Reish Lakish, who explained it follows, Nishema Yetera, this additional soul, Nidnabo Ba'adam Ba'erev Shabbat. It's given to a person on the eve of Shabbos. B'motzei Shabbat, not lino tami menu. And when Shabbos ends Saturday night, it's removed from him. Shneamar Shabbat vayina fash. Okay, Shabbat and rested. Kevan sheshavat, since it rested, voy, woe, avda nefesh. Okay, he is missing that soul. His strength is depleted, in other words. Okay,
Well, Rabbi Green,
yes.
how can we allow fasting for bad dreams on Shabbos if it's so holy day?
That's a good question. I'm going to have to give it.
You wanna have a good
some
Shabbos.
time. You have a suggested answer.
Well, they bring that if your bad dream is on Friday night, that if you fast on Shabbos, that gives you a sense of, I'm doing something to avoid the bad dream. So that becomes your Shabbos only, rather, because you're doing something about it, rather than sitting there all day
Worrying about it.
and worrying about the bad dream.
Okay, all right.
But
Thank you.
then because you
It's
fasted on
therapy.
Shabbos.
You gotta be
have to fast
mashlim,
on another
right?
day.
Gotta be
Ah,
mashlim.
That was
Right.
therapy.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Biyoma Rishon, right? Okay, remember the Mishnah then went into detail as to what was read on each of those occasions, right?
You gotta get 9 soup.
Right, so we'll get to this point now. Biyoma Rishon, Bereshit, Vayhi Rakia. So that was the first section. And remember, it said a long section, 2 people read in the Mishnah, a short, which was at least 6 psukim, okay? A short section, which was 3 psukim, only 1 person read. So what happens?
Problem with them is. on
Okay, we're
Sunday,
gonna
it's
see.
only 5.
Right? Tana, okay, we teach Bereshit B'shnayim. Our Mishnah taught that in that first section, 2 people read. Yihi Rakia Be'achad. And in that next section, 1 person. Bishlema Yihi Rakia Be'achad. That's acceptable with the Yihi Rakia section, 1 person. Tlata Psuke Havu. There were 3 psukim there. That's what was there. Ela Breshit. But in the section from Breshit until Vayhi Rakia, what happens? All right. In that case, all right, Bereshit B'shnayim, right?
8 soup.
Hela Bereshit B'shnayim, my Tama, Chamisha Psuke Haven. What the problem is there? We only have 5 psukim. All right, so how are you going to divide up 5 psukim? Let's see. Utnan, and we read elsewhere in another Mishnah. HaKorei b'Torah al yifchot mishlosha psukim. That one reading from the Torah cannot do less than 3 psukim. Okay, so what happens? Rav Amar, right? Rav Amar doleg. Ushmuel Amar posek. Rav says doleg, and as one repeats, okay, and Shmuel says posek,
We stop it.
one stop, and we're going to see where. Okay, is it in the middle of that third pasuk? We're going to see.
Enough, when you can't have 9 psukim for 3 people,
Yeah,
has to be a minimum of 10.
Not for this.
We'll
That's
see.
for standard
three of
three.
yeah.
right, normal. Normally.
For this is
Okay.
3.
But think
Okay,
about
so
it.
let's see. Let's go on. For Rav da Amar Doleg, and Rav who said one repeats. My Tama, what was the reasoning? Lo Amar Posek, that he didn't say to split. Kasavar, Ko Psuka de Lo Paske Moshe, Anan Lo Paskinamai. Any verse that Moshe didn't divide, we don't divide either. Okay? Ushmuel Amar Posek, and Shmuel said to divide it up. Umi Paskina, and how then do we divide it? Va'amar Rabbi Chanina, Kra, says Rabbi Chanina, the Bible teacher. Okay? Sar Gadol Hayali Eitzel Rabbi Chanina Gadol. Says, I had a great deal of problem with regards to Rabbi Chanina the Great. Okay, why? Because of the following. V'lo hitirli lifsok ela latino kot shel beit rabban. That the only time he permitted me to divide up a pasuk when I was teaching it to children to read was in school. Okay, for the children in the school, ho'il ve'ulehit lamed asuyim. But that was only done to teach them, right, for chinuch purposes, how to read. Ushmuel hatam tama ma'im yishum delo efshar. And Shmuel there, the reasoning was because it wasn't possible. Hachanami lo efshar. Here too, we're going to say it was not possible. Okay? Ushmuel amar posek ma'itama lo amar doleg. And when Shmuel says that you separate, what's the reason that he didn't argue like Rav, that you repeat it, right? Gzeira mishum hanichnasim, gzeira mishum hayotzim. A gzeira that the rabbis made because of those individuals who might come in early or might come in late, right? Or they'll leave early or leave late, okay? And they wouldn't hear, and therefore they would have the wrong impression as to how many psukim were read for an aliyah, okay? Meitive. But we'll challenge this with the following. Parsha shel shisha psukim, korino ta b'shnayim, okay? V'shel chamisha b'yachid, okay? We have a brayta that says a portion of 6 verses, one can be read by 2 people, and of 5 verses by 1. Ve'im harishon korei shlosha, and if the first person were to read 3, hasheni korei shnayim, miparsha zo ve'achad miparsha acheret.
Keeps going.
Right. What happens? What does he do? He reads 2 from one section and 1 verse from the following section. V'yesh omrim, but there are those who say shlosha, 3. Lefi she'ein matchilin b'parasha pachot mishlosha psukim.
He has to keep reading.
Right? That we do not read anything less than 3 verses for a section. Laman da'amar doleg lidlog. The one who said we repeat, let him repeat. Ulaman da'omar posek livsok. And the one who says to break, let him break. Shani hati. But it's different there, says the Gemara. Why? The eat le revacha. Because we say there that there is a, I want to think of a segment, a portion, a piece. Look at, let's take a minute to look at Rashi, because Rashi comments here, the eat le revacha, sheyechol likrot miparsha acheret. Aval hacha lid le revacha daha lo matze lemikre ela breshit vayhi rakia.
They have to keep each.
Right there, they're limited to what specifically they have to read, whereas elsewhere that's not the case, and that's where we're going to stop for today. Okay, in the top of Kafka.
Is this the source of what we do on Rosh Chodesh? Will we repeat?
Well, that's yeah.
I think you've got at least a couple of Balei Kriya here. Do they want to comment?
Yeah, that's the reason.
Okay, they say that.
This is
All right.
precisely what we do on Rosh Chodesh.
Okay, very good.
Okay.